Gerry and I am the Senior Director of Environmental Affairs for the Washington Public Ports Association. There are 3 bills linked to the passage of a transportation package. The first one is an environmental justice bill. It's called the HEAL Act, and that bill creates structure inside state government to evaluate state agency decisions to enforce environmental regulations. The second bill is the Clean Fuel Standard bill. Clean Fuel Standard creates a structure that reduces the carbon intensity in fossil fuel products over time. And the third bill is the cap and trade bill, which sets a cap on carbon and a price on carbon and generates revenue that the legislature is going to use for a number of things, but from our point of view, from a port point of view, for transportation projects. The transportation package is tied to these bills, in my opinion, by history and by money. In the case of history, the Clean Fuel Standard has failed over concerns that it would raise the cost of gasoline products and thereby make it harder to adopt a transportation package. With regard to cap and trade bill, it is the money source, really, for a transportation package. It's the sale of allowances to emit carbon into the atmosphere that generates revenue for the state and could be used for transportation. The environmental justice bill is a way to address some of the problems that people see in the cap and trade bill, because it requires a review of agency actions, including funding decisions that would take place as a result of cap and trade. So there's a link there between the two. So the environmental justice bill really is an attempt to address historical patterns of health problems and environmental challenges that have exposed some communities more than others. So it looks at how the funding decisions are made and how regulations are adopted, and attempts to address some of those existing problems by engaging with those communities and by setting standards that direct resources to the places that haven't really had access to the resources in the past. For ports, environmental justice is important, not just because it's something that exists within our communities and it needs to be addressed, but really in this case, from a port association and port district point of view, it's the framework, it's how those decisions that are made could affect what we're required to do for mitigation for ports, and also how the money gets spent. We've been neutral on the environmental justice bill. It's largely a process bill inside state government and doesn't have a direct impact on port districts. The Clean Fuel Standard is a mechanism that requires fuels to decrease their carbon intensity over time. And the way that they do that, I'll just give you one example of how that happens. If you blend biofuels with existing, for instance, diesel, you reduce the carbon intensity of that diesel product after that mixing happens. The key to that is a requirement in the Clean Fuel Standard bill that increases the percentage of clean components that have to go into fuels over time. But it's not something that we've taken a position on. We've remained neutral on the Clean Fuel Standard bill. So the last piece of this complicated linkage of bills that are joined together by the transportation budget is the cap and trade legislation that is still alive as we talk at this moment today in Olympia. That bill, sort of the centerpiece of cap and trade, is the idea that the state would cap the amount of pollution that could be emitted in a year or in a period of time, and then sell allowances, auction allowances, to firms that emit carbon into the atmosphere or whose products emit carbon into the atmosphere. And then, over time, reduce the cap and reduce the number of allowances that are auctioned. It's important for funding to go to the transportation system because, as ports know as well as anybody, that system is currently underfunded. Not only do we have big need for additional projects, bridge over the Columbia River or West Seattle, but the maintenance need in the transportation system overall is dire all around the state. So it's finding the resources to address those needs is something that ports care very much about. WPPA's position on the cap and trade bill is to support it because the revenue, a significant part of the revenue that's generated from that bill, is invested in transportation. All of these bills, whether it's cap and trade or clean fuel standard or environmental justice or transportation package, are all in the mix as we speak today, as I talk today. They're all in various states of repair or disrepair as legislators try to put together the votes to pass the legislation. And it's just very difficult to say today what the odds are for any one of them or for all four of them to pass. Commissioners that care about these bills should call their legislators. And you know, we say that a lot. Your staff at WPPA say that a lot. But it's the truth. It makes a difference. I would just like to thank both the staff and commissioners who've been engaged so far this session. I'll speak from my point of view. It's made a tremendous difference. One place where I have seen that myself has been with the Model Toxic Control Act appropriations. We got $70 million, which was exactly what we had hoped to get, and really a lot of that goes, the credit for that goes to our members for engaging in the process and talking to legislators and letting them know that it's important to you. So thank you.